And we're coming to you live from the Rocket Health Studios here in Southwest Florida. Welcome to another edition of the Tyler McClosky Show, coming to you every single Saturday at 11 a.m. right here on 92.5 Fox News. Phone number to reach the show, as always, 239-633-3140, 239-633-3140. Going to open it up to some call-ins and questions today, and I want to get that phone number out a lot at the beginning of the show because it's one of our favorite weeks. We got to get featured on Trey Radel's show here on The Drive this week, so we're going to play a segment from that show that we did on Tuesday just to recap again with our audience what we're talking about, what's going on currently with the health insurance world, and why the government's trying to get involved once again. And we got to see what we can do to do our best to either plan ahead, get out in front of it, or hopefully make sure that it doesn't happen. So again, phone number for the show, 239-633-3140, or you can visit me online at tylermcclosky.com, www.tylermcclosky.com, or on rockethealth.com. That is my company's website. And for those of you that have listened to us a lot, and again, still, I thank you guys so much. I'm honored to hear all the people that call in every week and say, I listened to your show so many times over the past 2 years, and we're just now needing help with our health insurance. Every single week, we give you all the facts, not feelings, in regards to your health insurance. We try to make sure that you are informed as possible of what's going on with the government involvement, what is changing on the private market, how it affects your taxes, what's underwriting, and again, inform people what is actually available on that private market. I think that's the biggest goal of what we do this show for. We have been able to help out so many people, thousands of you locally, let alone our clients that are national, thousands of you right here in Southwest Florida, that you don't realize that there are alternatives to healthcare.gov, that what they show you on the Affordable Care Act through healthcare.gov or what your employer offers you on a group plan is not your only option, that you actually have the choice to purchase something on that private market. It still exists. But is there going to be a change coming soon? And in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about, which I at first thought was a vote that was coming down in April, to maybe a rule change by executive order of what's going to directly affect the private health insurance market and you, the audience, your health insurance premiums. And the reason why this is happening is because the numbers on healthcare.gov are not as high as they may have thought they were going to be. They maybe haven't got as many as enrollments as they'd like because that private market is so strong again. So to give you guys, an understanding into that, when Obamacare was adapted in 2014, becomes the law of the land, you all know what happened to your current health insurance. Remember if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Well, we know that was not true. We know that X amount of carriers dropped out of the market. And even if you were grandfathered in prior to 2010, we're 13 years later now, even if you were grandfathered in, they just raise the premiums to outprice you out of that plan. I would like to know if anybody is still on their same plan prior to 2010, but most of you that I talked to, even if you were allowed to keep it, the price was so significantly high every single year, it just made no sense to keep it. So they pushed everybody towards Obamacare. 2014, 15, 16, 17, man, that was a crazy time for health insurance. And then fortunately, when the Trump administration came in, they were not able to repeal Obamacare, but what they were able to do was to take out the regulations on that private market to let the private insurance carriers start offering very good major medical plans, longer duration major medical plans, short-term major medical plans to compete against the high prices of Obamacare. So we've been on a pretty good route since 2019, and I've informed a lot of you of what those premiums are. And now it's come down that there's a potential rule change coming in April, which may make those plans go away. Why? because they want to force more people back to Obamacare. So if you are listening right now, I'm going to get right into the facts quickly before I play our segment here with Trey. If you have health insurance at all, let's start with that. I don't care if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you got a couple years till Medicare. Right now, text me what you're paying, 239-633-3140. Again, it's local, 633-3140. Text me over just your age and your premium. I'd love to hear from you. How much do you pay for your health insurance? I'd love to know if you're in the $100, $200 range, or from my clients that have reached out that are paying well into the $2,000 to $3,000 a month. So we'll break this down quickly for you. On the private market, if you qualify, to get the same type of major medical coverage that you've always been used to, that 40-year-old in Southwest Florida should be right around $350 a month. That 50-year-old is going to be around $450 a month. And then that 60-year-old, that person that needs to bridge that gap till Medicare, the ones that have been told that the price is higher now than it's ever been before, you can obtain the right major medical policies on the private market for right around $550 a month. These are the facts that you guys need to take advantage of right now today and not forget what's coming if those plans go away. So let's make sure that you guys are taking advantage of what's in front of you right now. Again, the phone number is 239-633-3140. Again, 239-633-3140. Myself or my team, we are able to give you an accurate quote, let you know of all the carriers that are still available. I'll read them off. United Healthcare, Allstate Health Insurance, Aetna PPO, Cigna PPO, Pivot Health Insurance, all provided by Rocket Health, our company. Everything in a major medical style plan, which means you have a standard deductible and everything's covered after that. God forbid you get diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, stroke, major illness, ICU stay, an accident and injury. You have to be protected properly and at the right price. And that's what we're able to do. So with getting all that out, one more time with the phone number, 239-633-3140. Call me, text me, let me know what you're currently paying or if you need a quote for yourself. But I kind of just gave you out the generalization of what those numbers are. The biggest thing is, how do you qualify? So let's go ahead and we're going to play cut one. This is me coming on to Trey Radel's show that you guys all love and listen to every single week at 5 o'clock. And we were able to kind of talk about what's going on with the government and the possible change of the health insurance market. So Ian, please go ahead, play cut one.
Trey Radel, your host of The Drive. Health insurance is a complete and total CF at times. There are places that you can go to make it easy, which I'll get to a studio a guest that we've got here, Tyler McClosky, who you've heard before. In fact, he even has a show here on 92.5 Fox News, 11 a.m. on Saturdays. Let me just lay out a few things here. For total transparency, Tyler and I, we talk quite a bit. We've hung out, had beers, love the guy. And our introduction was actually was talking about health insurance and the laws behind it, as well as the politics behind it. And I would say that, Tyler, you and I have learned from each other in the many years that we've gotten to know each other. So you hit me up with a text just a couple of weeks ago asking for clarity on whether or not these massive changes coming to health insurance, which are going to in some way, shape, or form affect you listening now, basically asking, what the hell's going on here? What is this? And the way that it appears to someone who might not be as nerdy as I am or with some experience in the federal government, is they're talking about things where they're going to make changes to health insurance that will absolutely directly affect the consumer and all of the insurers around the country. And then you're trying to figure out, is this something that they're going to vote on in Congress? Because, by the way, one would assume that when you're going to have massive changes to the economy and health insurance at that, which has to do with very, very powerful decisions you make for yourself and your family, you'd think that the American public would have input in that. And when we went back and forth on this, what I was very reluctant to come forward with to you with was bad news that no, the changes coming to your industry, and again, health insurance for anyone listening right now, are coming from basically one dude, and that's the man in the White House who has the ability to change rules. This is very similar. And in fact, I know later this show, we're going to get into things like, how the vaccine mandate worked out. I know I want to talk about student debt. These are all symptoms of the illness of the powers that the executive branch has today and how they can make these. So that said, you run Rocket Health. You go to rockethealth.com. That's Tyler's company. What's going on? What are they going to do? What rule are they changing? How does that affect everyone?
Well, yeah, and that's why we got in touch about this, because it is now, for the first time under this administration, directly affecting everybody. And that's where I needed clarity on it, too, for the first time, of seeing what is this rule change versus a vote that's coming in April. But basically what's happening right now, which is very unfortunate to everybody that has to deal with health insurance, it doesn't matter if you get it through a government-based program, the private market, or even group health insurance. The decision that's being made, possibly in April, is going to take away the wide options that you have on the private market. So without getting too into the weeds about it, we talk about it on the show every Saturday just to educate people, but there are private health insurance plans right now that have long durations that give you the best, most affordable coverage if you qualify for it. But what has that done? It's taken numbers and enrollments away from the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, which is still going. And right now, obviously, they are trying to bump those numbers up to the highest level because it acts and looks like it's giving everybody some great coverage, when in fact, all it is raising subsidies, giving out more tax credits. That's really messing with everything. And unfortunately, if this rule change goes through in April, there's a very, very good possibility directly in the rule. It says taking away that long duration private option to force people into Obamacare.
So I want to add clarity on that. Man, I want to actually get in the weeds too about the subsidies part and basically private sector competing with the federal government, which is usually difficult to do. But explain to us again how the government sets a rule telling, let me try to make this as simple as possible. Basically what you're saying is that the government is going to tell a private insurance company that you're not allowed to offer this plan. Is that right?
Correct. 100% correct.
As simple as it gets. The federal government is taking away choices from the consumer. And again, forgive me for trying to really dumb this down, but I also want the listeners to really understand how this plays out and what it ultimately ends up doing. So federal government, the bully, comes in and tells private insurers, you're not allowed to offer these specific plans. That's the rule, right, which means the law. That's the law of the land. And they say you're not allowed to offer what?
So basically they're saying you're not allowed to offer this particular plan that doesn't comply with Obamacare.
And what is it? That they're shortening
correct. So
they're judging them. They're saying those plans are out of bounds because of time frames.
Correct. So getting down into the weeds about it is that when Obamacare came into law of the land in 2014, that's when the Obama administration said no more private health insurance plans, major medical. It all got dropped down. So then when the Trump administration came through, if you guys remember, they tried to repeal Obamacare, but it actually didn't pass. Nothing passed through.
That was John McCain.
So Obamacare never got repealed in 2016, 17, 18. And when all that happened, President Trump actually kind of did the same thing. He made a rule change that all it said was, fine, Obamacare is still the law of the land. However, private insurance companies now can actually offer full-term duration health insurance plans to give people an option outside of Obamacare.
And just for clarity, define that full term.
So meaning that before Obamacare, you could get a major medical plan, which means it covers everything that you need, catastrophic coverage, without an end date. Once the Obama administration came in and passed Obamacare, they limited that down to 3 months, 90 days worth of plans, period, end of story. That was your full term. So every 90 days, you had to reapply and requalify.
With your private company.
Correct. With a new plan. So what did that do? It forced people to Obamacare or forced people to go with no health insurance at all.
Obamacare offers, what does Obamacare offer?
Well, Obamacare offers, they say, we're going to get you in every single year, regardless of any underwriting or health questions. And they raise that risk pool up, which drastically increases the premiums.
Yep.
So they say, we'll never neglect you or take you off unless the company goes out of business, the carrier leaves the area, which all has happened in those past couple of years. So back to that.
This is so, I want to take, again, a pause and assess where we're at and how absolutely sinister it is for the Democrats to be doing this. This is a sin. I don't know any other word. This isn't a word that I throw around often on this show. This is not a Marvel show. I'm not using the word sinister like we have an evil villain in-house, but it's a very sinister plan to push people out of the private sector, to effectively tell the private sector, screw you, you're not going to compete with us. We're going to come up with some arbitrary ass number here. 90 days. That's our arbitrary number. Why? We know it'll hurt you, but it's just enough that we can push you, and the lobbyists will still be on our side, and it is a disgusting, disgusting representation of Washington, D.C. on so many different levels. And that includes me here taking shots at Republicans who just have not been able to fix this either for decades whenever they've been in control.
Yeah, because they could have the last couple of years.
They did not. And so here we are now. So what this ends up is, it's ping pong. It's whatever new president comes in.
That is correct.
Has that control.
And that's where President Trump, and again, I hate being political about your health insurance. Why should you be?
I know.
But he at least came in and made the rule change that says, all right, these plans that are 90 days, now you're able to purchase it for it to last a minimum of 3 years. You now can at least get an insurance plan that you have a contract on that once you buy it, you have it for 3 years. And that's what drastically changed people to go back towards the private market over the last couple of years and gave them an affordable option outside of Obamacare. And that's where we're at today.
So, look, if we're talking about how absolutely terrible this is, again, as someone who's critical of Republicans and Democrats, I'm critical that we've got a two-party system. There's realities. And the reality to this, I vote Republican because I feel that, well, as disappointed as I may be in them, they tend to do more of the right thing. And that goes to Donald Trump. If I'm going to be dealing with this SOB in the White House, that SOB in the White House, at least Trump is giving us options. At least a Republican steps in and says, look, I just want you to have more choices and more options. That goes back to the sinister plans of the Democrat Party to slowly try to erode the private sector. Let's now get into, I want to get into two things. One, the subsidy part. I want you to clarify some of that, how that works. And then I'd love to wrap up with what people can do, what choices they may or may not have moving forward. Again, in studio with us right now, Tyler McClosky. You can visit his company. This is what he does all day, and he's done it for many, many years. That's why we love leaning on him as an expert on this. You go to rockethealth.com, and he's got a show here on Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 92.5 Fox News. So when they do this, when the Democrats go in, set these arbitrary numbers, begin to make sure that the private sector cannot compete with the public sector, with the federal government's version of healthcare, of health insurance. What they're doing is pushing more people into the pool. I know most of the people understand it, but just kind of reiterate, what does that do? It supports, it's socialism.
Correct.
It supports it all.
And that's why, too, if you've noticed, or anybody that's listening right now, they saw a massive increase in their subsidies in the last year and a half when they passed the different bills through during COVID to try to get increased subsidies. Well, the only thing that ultimately happened, the premiums increased just as much. So now somebody that's making $100,000 a year is getting thousands of dollars in tax credit and subsidies to offset their high health insurance just to abide by the Obamacare rules and laws. And none of it makes sense at the end of the day. Yeah. Where is it coming from? And majority of these people, and that's why we try to educate so much in everything we do. I don't care who you're getting your insurance through. We educate you. A lot of these people end up paying their subsidies back at the end of the year when they file their taxes. So they don't even realize that the money that they're offsetting each and every month when they elect a plan through healthcare.gov or Obamacare, that money they might be on the hook for, depending on where they fall at income at the end of the year. And so many people that reach out to us have to pay it back.
But then to talk about the realities of the application of that, look, like I'm a dad to 3 kids. I got my freaking hands full. I'm up busting my chops from 5 a.m. with my own company. Then I start prepping for radio. I do radio. I don't have time even to sit down with the family and to have a dinner, this and that. You start applying that to the realities of somebody then has to become a part-time accountant for themselves. Look, I get responsibility and all that. I know that there's someone out there to say, well, I track everything all year, this and that. I get it. I pay someone for that. But it really then just adds all of these burdens to basically middle-class America, who's ends up going there anyway. Mm-hmm. And it's a frigging burden, or it's an extra cost throughout the year on top of everything else to try to figure that out so they can be set right where they don't get friggin' taxed at the end of the year.
Correct.
It's just
it's unfortunate.
We talk about all this stuff, and man, this to me, as I've expressed to you listening right now to you, Tyler, like going way back, when I first ran for Congress to my time of being in Congress, part of that, very openly and admittedly, was a learning curve on health insurance in particular. Mm-hmm. I was proud to come to the table with other traits that I had acquired of my knowledge of the area, this and that. But I very openly was like, look, I've got a lot to learn on how insurance works in this country. And it is so intrinsically intertwined with the government that it is something that would take decades to pull apart, or we get to the really sad possibility if it just does end up being a
government single payer
run. Yeah.
Which is not good for anybody. And like you said, like you just hit it right there. Nothing's perfect, and we're not trying to solve the entirety of the problem, but taking the options away. Yep.
And that's
what does that do?
And that's where we're at right now. Again, Tyler McClosky in studio with us right now. You go to rockethealth.com. So let's talk about whether or not they're going to your website, they're dealing with their own insurer directly, whatever it is. What does this do? Like, are people going to start seeing up now? You're going to get a notice. This is going to get canceled. What happens?
So the good thing is we got a month and a half or so until this possible rule change comes about. I'm really hoping and anticipating it gets pushed back more so as we get more into the political climate of 2024. But the good news is that no matter what, if an individual purchases a policy in the private market today and they get approved, they have that policy, they at least have it for the duration of that plan. They have a contract.
Okay.
So if they get something that starts in March, they have it for 3 years no matter what the government decides to do. They can't take that one away. They could just say, hey, I'm going to wait until June to do this. But guess what? June, it might not be available anymore for new purchasers. So as long as you have something in place, the good news is you have a contract for whatever that duration that you chose, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of coverage, but it might not be there in a couple months. That's the reality of it. And the thing is, if you read all the news, I think you guys remember talking about this. They talked about the junk plans with Trump administration. They use that word a lot. That's what they're thinking they're trying to take away, but they're only bringing more of those type plans back out now again when they're going to be the only ones competing with Obamacare.
Man, yeah, again, sinister.
Yeah,
is I think the appropriate word for that. Man, I feel like I want to damage my health now. Go have a drink and not reflect on how terrible all of this is. Tyler, man, I always appreciate the knowledge, the perspective, and everything that you give this. Again, you can visit his company, rockethealth.com. You catch him here Saturdays, 11 a.m. Talk to us about your show, put you on the spot.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 2 years now. You were my first guest on the show as well, too, so that was always good. And believe it or not, it has been the best educational tool. Obviously, it brings business into the company, but we really take the perspective of just telling people what it's like, how it is, the same way I'm talking to you here, and trying to make it as interesting as possible because health insurance is very, very boring. But again, for people locally here in the community, there's so many people in that age of 50 to 65 years old that are just getting absolutely screwed on their health insurance premiums. And they don't just realize what is available on the private market. So we put that back out there to them. So hopefully that option doesn't go away in a couple of months. So people really have to take care of it when they can. So the show's been great for that.
Tyler, I look forward to it this Saturday. Huge thank you for stopping by.
Yeah. All right, and there we have it. Those weeks are always fun. We get to play a little bit of the cuts from coming on a Trey show. We're going to try to come in at least once a month, again, to talk to the broader audience. But I think a lot of listeners that listen into the show here on Saturday are also listening to Drew and Trey throughout the week. And I love going on to the show. I love giving you guys that real information that you need to know on how to make an informed decision about your health insurance. Phone number is 239-633-3140. Again, 239-633-3140. Or you can visit me online at www.tylermcclosky.com, www.tylermcclosky.com, or my company's website, rockethealth.com. We're going to give you all the information that you need. But the biggest thing is you have the right agents, intelligent agents that are not captive to one company or one contract. We have every single major carrier that's offered here in Southwest Florida, the entire state of Florida, and in the United States. If you travel, because you are down here for the winter months, and you want to make sure that you have a plan that works in both states, give us a call so we can confirm that you have the right health insurance plan in place. I hope that this week we gave you enough information to make the best decision possible for your health insurance. It's tax time coming up right now. You guys know what you're looking at of the changes to health insurance. Make the right decision. And it takes only a couple of minutes to find out if you are paying for the right plan for you and your family. Call today. Don't wait. 239-633-3140. I want to give a big thanks to Trey Radel for having me on the show with him this week. I hope you guys are all informed about the decisions you're going to make, and don't wait too long until April comes around. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. You've been listening to the Tyler McClosky Show.